Hello again, welcome to another live streamed episode of the LOC Report. Commissioner Stubbs is back once again, missing his co-host because his co-host is in Swindon, which I feel is probably a valid excuse. It's been another great week of LOC football, as it always is, but hey, we know week 14 is always a big one. And it was no different this year. We had a few interesting playoff scenarios, it was a really tight finish, as we'll see in a bit. We've now got our playoff teams lined up. We've also got the forfeit playoffs to look forward to. That's all set as well. We'll cover that all in this episode of the LOC Report. But first, as always, we'll do the league news. And a fair amount of news this week. So if you didn't see, the Wembley games were announced on Tuesday, yesterday. We've got Arizona against the Rams, Baltimore against the Jaguars. We have the Browns against someone. Maybe it's Browns against Jaguars. Vikings, Browns, and then there's another game, I can't remember. Go look for yourself, but we got 4 games next year. That's big news, great for the league. Injury news, we'll get straight to that. Let's see what we've got cooking a bit early in the week, so we may have fairly limited injury news. Let's see what we've going down. AJ Green reportedly should be good to come back this week. He's slated to practice this week, so he could come back. Adrian Peterson began running, I believe, and he's got a shot to come back this weekend as well. What else is shaking down? Sammy Watkins, he's continuing to be okay, come back from that foot injury. Andrew Luckey's okay despite that shoulder. Melvin Gordon, he suffered knee and hip injuries, thought to be relatively mild, but probably not going to play this weekend, so big loss for Pakistan there. Matthew Stafford dislocated his middle finger, but he put on a glove, had it strapped, so he should be fine. What else we got cooking? Low week for injuries, which is always good when you're entering playoffs. Jordan Matthews, he returned last week from his injury. Julio Jones, he missed last week with his supposed toe sprain thing. He could come back this week. What else have we got? Not much else by the looks of things, which is always good. Matt Forte, he went down injured with a knee injury in last week's game, sat out. We'll have to wait and see how he's doing. And Dante Moncrief, he suffered a hamstring injury. So we'll have to see how he is as well. That is your very limited injury news. Apologies, as I said, it is a Wednesday. Don't blame me, blame the NFL. Forgot to mention, don't forget to comment. We've just had a comment. Will be a very interactive show here. And Nigel, Coach Wells comments, AJ is coming. AJ Green is coming. He should return this week. Will be a big boost to ADRZ. How and in what game, we'll find out in a bit. But first, we'll talk to you about the waivers. So we have bare necessities. They added Duke Johnson and dropped Adam Thielen. Badenes added Houston Texans and dropped Travis Benjamin. ADRZ added the Dolphins defense and dropped Antonio Gates. Iken added Pierre Garçon and dropped Jeremy Curley. The Dream Team added Washington Redskins D and dropped Detroit Lions. ADRZ added Joe Flacco and dropped Blake Bortles. And bare necessities added New York Giants and dropped Cincinnati Bengals. As you can expect in this week at the playoffs, fewer waiver ads coupled with not many injuries, so not a lot to talk about there. Something else I should have mentioned as well, or I'll mention now, it's part of the news. Actually, no, we'll get around a bit. We'll leave that to a bit. But we will get straight to Week 14's games, which, as I mentioned, we had a really interesting playoff race. We had 5 teams vying for essentially one playoff space. 3 of them were 7 and 6, and 2 of them were 6 and 7. The 2 6 and 7 teams played each other, and they needed all of the 7 and 6 teams to lose. The 7 and 6 teams, if they won and the other ones lost, they would have made playoffs. If multiples won, it all came down to points. So those teams were Gridiron and the Brady Bunch were playing each other, the 6 and 7 teams. Iknan were playing Pakistan. Iknan were the 7 and 6 team. Cash for Gold, 7 and 6 team. Playoff Hub were playing the Dream Team, and Ben Necessities were playing the Tuckfards. So we'll start off with the games that had no implication on anything but the forfeit playoffs. However, that was quite interesting as well, because we had 4 teams on 5 and 7, and in all likelihood, if you lost in your game, if you were 5 and 7, you would end up in the Special Brew Bowl, which is this year's Losers Bowl. In those games, we had Forge Flies, Bedetonators, the Tuckfards, and Tom's Tyrants. Bedetonators and Tom's Tyrants played each other. Tuckfards, as we already mentioned, played Ben Necessities. Forge Flies played ADRZ. So we'll start off with ADRZ v Forge Flyers. ADRZ were 8 and 5 entering this one, already locked up the division. Meanwhile, Forge Flyers, they've been good lately, but they dropped a few games and were eliminated from the playoffs. The history of this matchup was 4 and 5 in favour of Forge Flyers, and it is now a level up 5 and 5. Forge Flyers took this one 92-78 and avoided playing in the Losers Bowl, the Special Brew Bowl, yet again. Looking down the scoreline, not a lot to talk about really. Newton gets 13, Murray gets 15, Nelson gets 16, Hilton gets 17. Behind that, a few points chipped in. Solid week. On the other side of the ball, ADRZ, they had a pretty down week. Tara Taylor got 19. The 2 running backs combined for about 3 points. Demarius Thomas and Tyreek Hill got 12 and 16 apiece. And then, other than that, the kicker got 10. That was pretty much it. So, down week for them. Forge Flies avoid the Special Brew Bowl. We'll get to our other non-playoff implicating game. Bedetonators against Tom's Tyrants. As I said, both of these teams were 5 and 7. The loser would, especially with the Forge Flies result confirmed, would be in the Special Brew Bowl. Almost certainly. The history of this matchup was, where are we looking? Tom's Tyrants were 6 and 4 against Bedetonators all time. Both these teams have been on a torrid run. They both lost. I think Bedetonators lost 5 in a row. Tom's Tyrants lost 4 in a row, or something like that. Tom's Tyrants broke the losing streak. They won it 98-62. They're now 7 and 4 against Bedetonators. The story behind this one, yes, it is live. Viv, he is just commented on the Facebook post. The reasoning behind this one, Tom's Tyrants, they got 20 points from Andrew LOC, him being healthy and back in the roster. Post playing, which wasn't great. Is helpful. Lamar Miller got 18. Deshaun Jackson got 16. He got an 8-yard touchdown. That's always going to help you. Tyler Eifert, he got 16 too. So solid week. On the other side of the ball, the most consistent team in the LOC, who really unfairly, I think, has lost his last 2, where his average score throughout the year would have won them. Both weeks he's dipped below that average. 62 this week. Just not a lot to speak of. Odell was the only one that went over 10. He got 15. The kicker and D got 10 apiece. Not much else behind that. As usual, Bedetonators left points on the bench, and it's cost them. They're now playing in the Special Brew Bowl. So we'll skip our last forfeit playoff team, Tuckfards v Bare Necessities, because that has playoff implications. And we'll first go to Gridiron Gang Brady Bunch, which did have playoff implications. But these guys needed some help. Both these teams, 6 and 7 entering the game. Ironically, both of these teams were among the highest scoring team in the league. Gridiron Gang was the highest entering this one. Brady Bunch was about 3rd or 4th, I think. The history of this one, Gridiron Gang was 3 and 1 all time against the Brady Bunch. Both these teams have looked explosive at times this season, but the Brady Bunch took it 131 to 108, coming up clutch when you had to. Like I said, both of these teams had to win, even for a chance of the playoffs. Brady Bunch got a chance from a tremendous week. Tom Brady gets him 32. Carlos Hyde gets him 26. Travis Kelce gets him 10. Bilal Powell coming out of nowhere with 30 points because of the Forte injury, but hey, it turned out to be a good play. Justin Tucker also got 13. Great week from them. On the other side of the ball, Gridiron Gang also having a great week, which has been the case for most of the season. Kirk Cousins with 20. David Johnson with 12, Jordan Howard with 11, Malcolm Mitchell with 10, Doug Martin with 15, and the Falcons D came out with 27. But it wasn't enough. They fall to 6-8, and the Brady Bunch go to 7-7 with a chance at the playoffs. We will skip back now to a mix of the forfeit playoffs and the playoffs, where the Tuckfords faced off against Ben Acestes. Ben Acestes, they were 7-6 entering this game. A win would see them step towards the playoffs. However, if the other 7-6 teams won, they would need to outscore them by, depending on which team, 38 or 45 points. The history of this matchup: Ben Acestes was 6-5 against the Tuckfords. They are now 7-5. They won this game. They moved to 8-6, 104-52. Tuckfords didn't show up. Robert Kelly got 15 points for them. No one else got over 10. Ben Acestes, on the other hand, Andy Dalton got 20. But Le'Veon Bell, 47 points. Absolute clutch. He made their week. They had Zach Ertz on 11 and the Bengals on 13. Practically nothing else by that. There's a 0, there's a 1, a 0.8, and a 3.3. They're lucky they had Bell this week, basically. But they won, and they had a chance at playoffs. So we go to one of our other games now. We have, let's take the Dream Team against Cash for Gold. Dream Team, 99% achieved playoffs. They were 8-5 entering this game, had superior points over their division. Meanwhile, Cash for Gold also at 7-6 on a 4-game win streak entering this one. Needed a win. They had the advantage out of the 3 7-6 teams on points. They had a bad week. They won though 67-61. Aaron Rodgers gets him 27, Ezekiel Elliott gets him 10, the Steelers D gets him 12. Behind that, nothing else. But the Dream Team, just with a bad week, been really uncharacteristic of them all season. Drew Brees only got 4. Latavius Murray gets 16. Des Bryant finished on negatives with -1. He had 1 catch and a fumble. Jordan Matthews, 7.9. Nothing else really there. Just a bad week for the Dream Team. Probably very glad they got it out of the way this week. We've just had another comment. Nige, good to see you, Viva. Looking forward to our game. Spoiler alert? Not really, because we already knew they were getting to the playoffs. But meanwhile, in this one, Cash for Gold, they got 67. Now, Ben Acestes needed to outscore them by 45. They only managed to get 38. So Cash for Gold was in the running for the last playoff spot. It all came down to Iknam v Pakistan. Iknam, the other 7-6 team, playing against Pakistan, who had already locked up the playoffs. They were at 9-4 entering this one. If they won, they got to double digits. The only team that would be at double digits win the season if they did. The history of this matchup: Iknam had never beaten Pakistan, 0-2 against them, but Iknam won it 88-58. They were only 7 points behind Cash for Gold on the season, outscored them by 21. They win it and get the playoffs, rolling a 5-game win streak. Absolutely clutch by Iknam. Behind it, you've got LeGarrette Blount getting 13 against the number 1 rushing defense in the league. Frank Gore getting 13. LaShawn McCoy getting 16. The running backs playing this dividends to this team. And the Panthers got 22 as well. On the other side of the ball, Pakistan, bad week. Melvin Gordon goes down. That doesn't help. Jonathan Stewart got 12. Todd Gurley got 14. But behind that, really nothing else. The bench got points though, so it wasn't for a lack of trying. Iknam make the playoffs, and we round out the playoffs. So, with that, all the games reviewed, the playoffs are, and we'll look at more in this a bit, Pakistan take on Iknam, 2 weeks in a row, they just played each other. Meanwhile, the Dream Team take on ADRZ, which is a rematch of Corona Bowl 7, last year's Corona Bowl, so it's going to be a good week. Meanwhile, in the consolation brackets, these are 2 weeks long now. We've got the forfeit playoffs, and I'll read out the forfeits in a second. You've got the Brady Bunch taking on Gridiron Gang. It's going to a 3-week face-off for these two teams. You've also got Ben Acestes against Cash for Gold. You've got Forge Flyers against Tom Sides, and boy, have you got one heck of a special brew bowl is Bedetonators v the Tugfards. We all know the history of that. We'll get to that in a bit. But those are your matchups. Let's take a final look at the standings with a bit of news. We've got ADLZ, who won the Southampton division at 8-6. Brady Bunch 7-7. Gridiron Gang at 6-8. Forfeits at 6-8. Portsmouth division. Pakistan 9-5 overall. No 10-win teams this year. Only the second time that's happened, I think, or third. Iknan 8-6. Thompson 6-8. Bedetonators 5-9. The Dream Team, they won their division 8-6. Cash for Gold and Bare Necessity both go 8-6 but lose out on points. And the Tugfards, they're at 5-9. As I mentioned, that news I keep alluding to, we have a regular season champion and a highest scoring team confirmed in the award books. Pakistan, they're the regular season champion at 9-5. Well done to Pakistan. Coming off of a bad last year, they've really had the rebound from last to first. Great job. Meanwhile, Gridiron Gang, the first highest scoring team in the season in team history. They've been in the league 8 years. Unfortunate to go 6-8. They actually conceded more points than they scored, which is incredible. But they're in the forfeit playoffs as well. So we've got some milestones for you this week. We have a new highest win team. 66 wins. Coach Stubbs Senior has now. He overtakes Coach Merritt. Other than that, what we got? Coach Barnes achieved his 60th regular season win. Well done. Unfortunately, Coach Stubbs Jr. and myself, I have notched my 60th all-time loss, being the second coach to join the 60 loss club. Well done to me. I apologise, I'm neglecting our comments on the board here. We have Viv saying yes, their playoff game should be a good one. Boy, you know it's going to be. If AJ Green goes and Jones doesn't, I'll have to give you the edge. You don't want to give anyone the edge yet, Viv. Games haven't even kicked off. Nigel comes right back saying, I don't know, your RBs have good matchups. One downside with the AJ, they are playing the enemy. I can only guess that's the Steelers. Go Steelers. And Viv also says true, but I like the Tyrod Taylor matchup. I wouldn't be too worried. He's probably close to being benched at this point, Viv, so we'll have to see. Carrying on with our milestones, I'm not sure we've got any other notable milestones this week. No, we don't really. So that's all the milestones for you. So we'll take a look at next week's games, starting off with the forfeit playoffs. We'll go from bottom to top. Apologies, it's going to be difficult for me to... Actually, no, I'll be able to give detailed looks at each team. Just let me open up each team's page. There we go. So we'll start off with the Special Brew Bowl, the Losers Bowl. Probably the one people care the most about, to be fair, out of all the other bowls other than the Corona Bowl. Remember, forfeit playoffs are 2 weeks long now. So it's the total score over the 2 weeks. And we know the story with this one. Two long, bitter rivals. We just had a comment from Nige. Go Steelers. I just rummed into my dinner. I should wear my Steelers hat for the next podcast. Thanks for the idea, Nige. You're welcome. So Tugfards, Bedetonators, a storied matchup. We all know how it goes. Tugfards have their number. That number, in fact, is 9-2 to the Tugfards. But Bedetonators won the one that mattered at the end of the day. Now they face each other in the Loser Bowl. You can't write this stuff, as they say. Now the forfeit for this game is particularly interesting. If Ollie beats Phil, he gets to rename Phil's team to Tanky McTankface, all in reference to our famous intro to the podcast. You're a bleeping tank, Phil. You're a bleeping tank. Meanwhile, if Phil wins, he gets to change Ollie's logo. Ollie won the rights to be the last remaining grey helmet team last season. Could have that taken away next year. We'll have to see. That's a permanent change as well. It's not a 1 year thing. We've got a few more comments. Viv, funny how Russ, second in score, didn't make it playoffs. That's really funny. It is really funny. It just goes to show how close the league was this year, Viv. You know, the bottom record was 5-9 and the top was 9-5. I would say that's probably the closest it's ever been to my knowledge. We usually have a 4 or win so team, or a double-digit win team. So really compact this year. Scoring was really compact as well. Last year, I think we had a team over 1,500. No one scored over 1,500, and I'm pretty sure no one scored under 1,200 as well. Just looking at so really compact scoring as well this year. Anyway, back to our game. So the Tugpots take on the Detonators. I'm not going to go into the matchups too detailed. I'll just give you, because it's 2-week one, I'll just give you some background on the two team seasons. The Tugpots, it's fair to say the season's been a bit of a train wreck. Coach Merritt has done absolutely fantastically to get to 5-9. He had some really good weeks. Has assembled a pretty decent roster, to be fair to him, from what he started with. But 5-9, pretty reflective of what the team is. But Detonators, on the other hand, one of the most consistent teams in the league. They've dropped 6 games on the trot. Usually the consistent teams do well, but this year, just so unfortunate that other teams seem to have their number. In fact, if we go into the coach stats as well, the Detonators finished 12th in coach, leaving 325 points on the bench, a ridiculous stat. So there you go. So it will be interesting to see these two teams. We have another comment. Nige says, I knew I should have burned that hat when I had the chance, but fair play, you did well on the stage. I did. If it wasn't for a cute 4-year-old or whatever it was, I would have won that hands down. But you're not burning my hat, Nige. In fact, I'm just going to wear it whenever I see you from now on, despite you. So that'll teach you to pipe up on the message boards when you happen to make playoffs with the lowest conceded against team, I believe. Anyway, back to this. Interesting note on that is back to your comment, Viv, how Ross second in score didn't make playoffs. Myself and Ross on the breakdown tab of the league stats, which is basically playing everyone each week. So if I was to play every team each week, what would your record be, for instance, each week? Myself and Ross are first and second on that. I was 98 and 56. Ross was 92 and 62. So I'm not saying anything. It's just fantasy. It's just how it goes. But and then you have a team like Ben Assisties who made playoffs. They were 66 and 88 across the season, 10th in the breakdown, and they do make playoffs. So it's about as much who you play as about how well you do. Snow White and I adds here, it's the fear factor explaining why he concedes, gets the least conceded against him. I'd have to disagree, Nige. It's luck. It's why you won the luck award last year. I'm pretty sure you did win it last year. And I will actually correct myself there. You weren't the lowest conceded against. That award goes to Ben. You had 1251. Ben had 1245 against him. Ben Assisties also had 1271. So we've pretty much just explained how the playoff teams came to be. Pakistan himself, he only had 1293. Tom Science 1271. It's ridiculous. Like, some of the best teams in the league this year had copious amounts of points scored against them. Ross 1440, me 1482, Ollie 1392, Viv 1383. Well done to him making the playoffs with that. And fell to his credit as well. Part of explaining his bad season, he had 1439 scored against him. So there you go. Anyway. So that was the Special Brew Bowl. Other bowl games we've got going on. We've got Tom's Tyrants against Forge Flyers, the podcast co-host himself, though you wouldn't know it after watching the last few episodes, against the Edot Locker, the elected Edot Locker. Stories behind these two team season, kind of a mixed bag really. Forge Flyers, they started off kind of well, had a few key injuries, sapped their explosiveness, but they kind of hit their stride when they essentially started the Tennessee Titans offense. Then they didn't even go bad really down the stretch. Other teams just scored well against them. It led them to miss out 6-8. Tom's Tyrants, on the other hand, slow start, kind of an okay middle-ish, and then they just trailed off completely. Nige says, oh god, the outlaws have arrived. He needs to go, keep up with the good work. Thanks, good to have you watching, Nige. We'll try and get you on the podcast at some point. Have fun with the in-laws. And best of luck in the playoffs this week. Back to our game. Tom's Tyrants. Yeah, as I said, slow start, okay middle, slow end. Really probably a good matchup for what I think is the Super Bowl. not going to talk about particularly going to the matchups. Forfeits, we haven't had the forfeits confirmed for this one, so you'll have to keep up to date with that. But we'll go straight into the Fish Bowl, which is myself v Ross, I believe. I just mentioned the background on this. Two teams had really high scoring seasons, had points scored against them, dropped games even though they did well, so they face each other. We've got some funny forfeits in this one as well. So if I beat Ross, he has to wear a dolphin outfit to the draft. If Ross beats me, I have to wear women's underwear over my suit. That'll be a hell of a fun time for me. This should be a good matchup actually, because going out 3-2 all time against the Brady Bunch, so that should be a close one. Sorry, should have given you Forge Flyers v Thomas Tyrants as well. The history of that is Thomas Tyrants are actually 7-2 against Forge Flyers all time, so unlucky whatever your forfeit ends up being, Chris. Then our last forfeit playoff game is Cash for Gold against Bare Necessities. They were division rivals this year. Pretty good game this because it's new against old. It's our newest coach, the rookie, Coach Gardner, against one of the original teams, the first one in the league, Bare Necessities. Both obviously 8-6, both just missed out on playoffs, so this should make a good game. Forfeit, probably the most out there forfeit to be honest so far, is if Cash for Gold wins, Coach Sub Senior has to say well done to Coach Gardner. If Coach Gardner loses, he has to say well done to Coach Stubb Senior. Thrilling stuff. I could see a Hollywood script written on this one, honestly. So yeah, I kind of they may change something, but if not, that's their forfeit. Moving to the real playoffs now. We've got some absolutely great matchups for the real playoffs. We've got Pakistan take on Ignan, 1 and 4 seed, and ADOZ be the Dream Team as the 2 and 3 seed game. So we'll start off with that one. As I said, these two teams played each other in the Corona Bowl last year. Sorry, no they didn't. 2 years ago. Correct me on that. 2 years ago, they played each other in the playoffs, not the Corona Bowl. Completely wrong on all fronts there. So this will be a great rematch. Looking down the lineups, the history of this one is ADRZ are 6 and 3 all time against the Dream Team, so I have to see how that goes. ADRZ, they've got some good matchups. Tyra Taylor, as I mentioned earlier, he's playing Cleveland, but he's not been good, so you never know. Devontae Freeman against San Fran, that's a good matchup. Other than that, though, Jordan Reed against Carolina, that's pretty good. Other than that, some tough ones. You've got Riddick against the Giants, Britt against Seattle, Hill against Tennessee. So we'll have to see that. On the other side of the ball, the Dream Team, they've got Breeze against Arizona. That's not the best. Murray against San Diego, McKinnon against Indy. Those are pretty good. Bryan against Tampa, Jones against San Francisco. If he plays, we'll have to see. But those are good. Olsen against Washington. Christine Michaels coming in the sun against the Bears. That's a bit of a Hail Mary right there. So this should be a real close game, I reckon. Who am I going to give the edge to? It's a tough call. Both these teams had a bad last week. They're kind of volatile at times. It's a close one to call. But I think I'm going to go with the Dream Team. I think, to be fair, out of the two, they're probably the slightly more consistent. But it's really a coin toss. I can't pick it either way. Our other playoff game, Pakistan against Ignan, the number 1 seed against the number 4 seed. Pakistan obviously had a great season, started on 4 despite playing well, went on that absolute 8-game tear. Then they dropped, they went to 1 and 3 over the stretch to finish 9 and 5. Meanwhile, Ignan, they were hot down the stretch, clutch, 5-game win streak. They're 8 and 6. History of this matchup. We just covered it, but 2 and 1 to Pakistan. Projections 83 to 100. Sorry, should have said the projections of the other game. Projections of the other game was equally as close as I said, 97-94 in favour of the Dream Team. Right to the other game, 100 to Ignan, 83 to Pakistan. Looking down the lineup, Pakistan, they've got Melvin Gordon in at the moment, but I don't think he'll play, which is a shame because he's playing Oakland. And other than that, they do not have good matchups really this week. Winston's playing Dallas, Stewart's playing Washington, Tate's playing the Giants, Evans is playing Dallas, Ebron's playing the Giants, Gurley's playing Seattle. Nothing good there really, but they do have a few options on the bench. On the Aikman side of the ball, Wilson's playing LA, that's pretty a good matchup. Blunt's playing Denver, and Gore's Minnesota, that's horrible. Fitzgerald's playing New Orleans, that's pretty good, but they're starting Tyler Boyd, not a great place to be in. LaShawn McCoy against Cleveland, that's pretty good. So again, it looks like it's going to be another type one. I can't pick against Pakistan. They've been a great team all season long. They've got some absolute torrid matchups. But Canans really aren't that much better, but I'm sure it's going to be another close one. So those are all your next week's games. Let's just take a quick look at the milestones for next week. So only the playoff teams can really achieve milestones at this point, because we don't track wins and losses for non-playoff teams. It doesn't count in the eyes of the history books. So of the playoff teams, what do we got? So nothing for Coach Stubbs Senior. Coach Pat, it will be his first appearance in the playoffs, so well done to him. Coach Nathwani, nothing going for you on the playoff front, and nothing really going for Ben either all time. So that's your podcast.
Peggy 7.
I should mention as well in the news, we're going to have the Corona Bowl event in mind, Saturday 24th of December, so if you're around, make it. It'll be a good evening as always. We'll also have the awards announced on that evening, just before the games start, the season awards. So that's always a good one. I'll start thinking about who's going to win those. Next week's article will probably be
Peggy 7.
What's the word? Nominee article, so look out for that. Other than that, best of luck if you're in the actual playoffs, and if you're in the forfeit playoffs, best of luck in your first week of 2. Just to clarify as well, I should say the loser in the actual playoffs, will go obviously face each other in the Kumar Bowl, the third place bowl. Your game will be a 1 week matchup, so you'll agree your forfeit next week, and whoever loses out of that will have to have the forfeit or do the reward for the winner. Yep, best of luck in the playoffs, best of luck in the forfeit playoffs. We'll be back next week to give you an update on how the forfeit playoffs are going, and the preview. We'll have the Corona Bowl, 8 teams in the books set. It's going to be a good show, going to be a good weekend of fantasy football. I hope you enjoy it. See you next week. Goodbye.